Major economic warnings coming out. I've got some video footage to get you caught up on as we're hitting our economy. It's not looking good and we're hearing that stimulus checks, well, they might be needed here very soon. I'm gonna get you caught up on the latest. This is your breaking news stimulus check update and stimulus package update. Now, first off, you guys take a look at these stimulus checks, pandemic stimulus checks, the good, the bad, and to be determined, which is the fourth federal level check to everybody in the nation. We're hearing calls for $2,000 stimulus checks. Now, we've had a petition signed by over 3 million people saying send down monthly recurring checks. And we've heard Bernie Sanders recently come out and said, Democrats, change your direction if you want to win in the midterm elections. And he said, President Joe Biden, keep your promises. And he's been saying this for a while, saying keep the promises of the $2,000 checks that were promised in those Georgia Senate runoff elections. And he said, President Joe Biden, keep your promises. And he's been saying this for a while, saying keep the promises of those $2,000 checks that were promised in Georgia Senate runoff elections. And we're hearing they might be needed with some of the economic news coming out. Take a look at the headlines in the past 24 hours, you guys. The Fed may have to do something that hasn't done since 1994 to tame inflation. And they're talking about interest rates cranking up at some pretty extreme levels. I'm gonna get you all the details. Stocks crash as recession tutors short the trading, and yes, we're hearing we're pretty much going to be going into a Federal Reserve included recession. It is going to be necessary to help combat this record high inflation. Interest rates are going to be increasing quantitatively. Tightening is going to be taking place here very soon to slow down the rate of inflation and our economy. And it's going to have some pretty aggressive impacts. Stock investors start to bet that the Fed will tip the economy into a recession, and while Biden's bet on rapid economic rebounds may fight for fires. As yet, we're hearing that it's not going to be recovering as fast as they were hoping. We're hearing that stimulus checks could help out during this time as it's going to be contributing to inflation, but just a little bit, but only if they issue new funds. If they take existing funds just sitting there and they redistribute them, repurpose them, which the president can do through executive orders, well, it wouldn't add more so to the debt and would help our people pay for these record high prices and inflation. Let me know your thoughts. But take a look, you guys. Pros and cons of stimulus checks. Very quickly just gonna read the titles for you pro. It kept the economy out of a deep recession, helped people get money in their hands. During this pandemic. Cons, it likely did help spark inflation. They're saying it wasn't the main contributing factor, but it was a contributing factor. Pros, who kept 11 million people out of poverty. We're hearing that it was the number one provision to do so. And right now, it's actually still the most popular provision, that there is 80% of people say they support a fourth federal level check. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, economics have kept millions out of the workforce, and they're talking about those unemployment checks along with stimulus checks. Same people were not incentivized to get back out there and help out the economy. And pro, it did boost bank accounts, saving accounts, reduce credit card debt levels. However, they're saying the government took on trillions in new debt, which we're going to be feeling the impacts of, and we're feeling right now. So let's go ahead and dive right in, get you caught up on the latest. The markets are already in bad shape as they kick off the week. The Dow Jones and S&P all dropped on Friday, marking Wall Street's worst week since January. It comes after we learned consumer prices jumped 8.6% compared to this time last year, signaling inflation isn't going away anytime soon. There is ramping up pressure on President Biden to act in any way he can, with the president blaming the war in Ukraine as the single biggest cause of high prices. The White House released this three-step plan over the weekend to fight inflation. So this White House sees inflation as its domestic issue, the biggest issue they have, and it's right. When you talk to anyone in the country, voters, whether you talk to members of Congress, lobbyists, members of people who actually work at the White House. They're constantly talking about rising prices. They're constantly talking about how expensive gas is, how expensive milk is in the grocery store. So what the administration is hoping to do, especially this month, was kind of push with a huge messaging push to explain why prices are where they are, and for the White House, explain why and what they plan on doing for those issues. And so this three-pronged plan that the presidents talk about is bringing down the deficit, focusing on that, kind of allowing the Fed to do whatever it needs to do in this and stay independent. That's something that they said was very important to them and the president because of the Trump administration, where you constantly saw then President Trump kind of attacking the Fed, but then also reducing costs for Americans. And so that's childcare, that's healthcare was really interesting on that last point. There is a lot of what Congress was planning on doing with the Build Back Better agenda that they have planned to do. At the end of the last year, there hasn't been much movement on that, right? We've seen Congress move on from that issue, and so it was a briefing with a couple of reporters and a senior administration official on the economic side on Friday. So now they're working at just figuring out how they can explain to the American people, this is what we're doing, because they know there's not a lot that the White House can do on this issue, and so there's concerns about the political aspect of this as we head into the midterms, but also the larger implications for the entire rest of this term for this White House and the kinds of things they're able to do. Because this is about how people feel. If they feel like everything's so expensive, because this is if they feel like there's no hope for how much money they're able to spend on their families, they're not going to vote for you. All those things are mostly going to happen as a result of the Federal Reserve, not the White House. And it's very hard from a messaging perspective to say, hey, it's not us, it's those guys over there, and those guys are doing their job. And it looks worse, at least temporarily. This is a problem not only that we're facing here in the United States. This is a problem that policymakers are having to face all over the world. You've got Great Britain, high inflation rates, and we have high inflation rates in Europe, from the Netherlands all the way to Poland. So this is a global crisis to level with the American people. That's what you sent. What's going on with the global economy? The White House came out last Friday on our show saying this is our number one priority. This requires the president to say, okay, listen, not only is it the war, it certainly is the war. And this percentage of world tuition in China is situation in China. We have massive supply chain problems because China's shut down their economy. We have $2 trillion that was sitting on the sidelines after a couple of years of COVID. So there you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Now we're hearing the vast majority of voters are saying he's not going to get a pass there. This is less than a third of the nation that approves of president's performance so far. And their number one top concerns is the state of the key economy, which they're saying is going to the wrong direction. That is the latest, and as always, I'll be sure to keep you up to date.